What it is, people, my name is Batman, and I want to talk about something that I've mentioned indirectly or made a reference to a lot in the past, but never really addressed directly. I want to talk about this goddamn suburban legend, this decades-old myth, this wild, baseless accusation that video games are bad for you, because for some reason it just won't die. Gaming gets blamed for violence, crime, bullying, bad grades, obesity, the list goes on. And it's always old people, or older people, who talk shit, which is frustrating for me because I know they've never actually played a video game in their lives. And as usual, rational argument and logical analysis can't seem to break into the mainstream. And what's most frustrating about it is that all this constant argument over whether games are bad or not drowns out the question that people should really be asking, which is, can gaming be beneficial to us? Are games potentially a very useful tool for society, and why and how, and if they are, what can we do to maximize on their potential? Because in the last decade there has been plenty of evidence to suggest that there are several positive contributions that gaming can provide for both individual improvement and solving problems as a society. And I will lay out the evidence and rational arguments for you, my brothers, my fellow gamers, so that whenever you encounter any negative stereotype towards gaming, towards your hobby that you love, be it from your mother or your teacher or your congressman or your stupid ass friends on the internet, you can combat it and defeat it swiftly with the exceptionally potent power of truth and reasoning. Because gaming is on course to be a huge part of our future, no matter what. 67% of households in the US play video games regularly. The industry itself is worth $10 billion annually, and it's only going to get bigger. It has become fully integrated into society, and it's going to stay that way. So as a society, we have an obligation of pragmatism to maximize its pros and remove its cons, as we must do and have done with every technological advancement we have developed. This idea that games are just a silly hobby that is bad for you is counterproductive. They are more than that. Gaming is the catalyst through which maximum human potential shall be realized, and the sooner the better for our generation. And the remainder of this century will face a host of challenges that few human beings before us have ever even imagined. So, before we can truly develop gaming as a tool, we have to defeat the misconceptions about its dangers. Video games are a scapegoat for members and, more frustratingly, politicians of a society who do not want to face the flaws in said society, or they benefit personally from those flaws staying hidden, whatever. Video games don't make people violent, neither do movies or any type of media or entertainment. It is fake, and people acknowledge it's fake, and there are some basic logical arguments to prove this point. I'm not positive about the extent to which other nations have this problem, but people here in the US love to try and blame any and all violence, and the mass shootings especially, on video games. And it's deceitful. For one, because when 67% of households are playing video games, that means there's already a 2 out of 3 chance that the criminal played video games just because he lives in America. And how could the connection be made that games make people violent when tens of millions are playing but only a very small minority are actually committing violent acts? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, let's say it's a hot day in Los Angeles, and over the course of that day, 10,000 people visited the beach, and then 2 of them drowned. Would you blame the beach and advise folks not to go to the beach? Or would a smarter idea maybe be to look into the specific circumstances of the drownings? Was the person way too intoxicated? Did they know how to swim? How far out from the beach did they go? If you just blame the beach, you'll never find the actual cause of drowning, and that's the other uber counterproductive aspect of blaming video games for violence. Is you don't get to the real cause of the problem if you just assume the criminal was tweaked out from playing too many video games. Scapegoats hide the real underlying problem. Further, and this is a much more effective argument, and it applies to violent movies as well, the entire world plays these violent video games. The entire world watches our spectacular violent movies, but the entire world does not share the problems of violence and mass shootings that the United States is so heavily afflicted by. The only countries that are outpacing the US in violent crime and mass shootings are countries housing the drug cartel. You know, those motherfuckers who leave mutilated torsos along the highway for shits and giggles. So, if video games and or violent movies cause violence, why doesn't it affect everyone who plays? And why isn't it as serious a problem in every country that has literally the exact same lineup of games and movies that we do? Now, the last point I want to make on violence is this. Mankind has always been obsessed with violent entertainment. 1,000 years ago, we had the gladiator games. We would watch as real-life human beings decapitated one another and then got eaten by fucking lions. Even children have always had a thing for violence. Every single Disney fairy tale they made a movie out of was at one point a violent children's story. In the original Cinderella, the stepsisters cut off their heels to fit their feet in the glass slipper, but their ruse didn't work because the prince noticed all the blood. And that was your typical children's story. Video games are just the 21st century version of this stuff. Now, as far as obesity and bad grades and laziness and antisocial behavior go, first let me say, all things in moderation. Too much of anything is bad for you. Too much water will destroy your kidneys. Too many apples will give you diarrhea. So playing video games to the point that you basically aren't doing anything else worthwhile in life isn't a good idea, but that's not something you can necessarily blame on gaming itself, because the logical counter-argument to this is that for every gamer who suffers from one of these problems, there are so many more who do not suffer from them. If video games were really the cause of the problem, then 64% of the country should be suffering from the same problem to some degree or another, but there's no evidence to suggest that they are. What's really happening is people are confusing cause and effect. Obese and antisocial children turn to gaming because it's an entertaining and easily accessible escape. That doesn't mean it's causing the problem, and again, blaming video games means you aren't going to discover the real cause of the problem. If we go back to the beach analogy, say 10,000 people go to the beach and some of them get sunburned. Do we blame the beach and say that nobody should go to the beach ever again? Or do you remind the sunburnt folks that they should have put on some fucking suntan lotion like everyone else that didn't get burned? Laziness, bad grades, and antisocial behavior are personal responsibility and self-control problems. People need to moderate themselves, and depending on the age, the parents need to moderate for them. And I honestly feel that games taking the blame for this kind of stuff is just shitty parents looking for excuses. And since the excuse they find is so readily accepted, nobody ever actually solves the real problem. Like, what if the kid's getting bullied? Maybe the kid has a sugar processing disorder. Maybe the kid has ADD, etc., etc. So, scapegoating gaming this way is extremely harmful, and more so to the people scapegoating than it is to the industry. And if people would just give up this ruse and really examine gaming without all the emotional bias, they would be able to see all the potential gaming has to do good in the world. And I could do a whole nother commentary on these things, but I'm just going to do a quick run through of what we do know gaming can do based on studies conducted by various universities, and I'll include a link in the description and you can check it out for yourself. But as a general list, studies show that gamers score 23% higher in creative tests than non-gamers do. Tasks such as drawing pictures and writing stories. When someone is being physically harmed, 11 out of 20 gamers would help, while only 7 out of 20 non-gamers would help. A study of border security personnel found that after acquiring 3D virtual simulation games, the number of successful test scores increased from 56% to 95%. Surgeons who play video games were 27% faster at advanced surgical procedures and made 37% fewer errors. That's huge. That's the difference between life and death in a lot of cases when you're talking with advanced surgery. Alright? Studies show that gamers are better at problem solving, negotiation, judgment and analysis, strategic thinking, communication skills, networking. They have improved attention, vision, and cognition. They have better narrative skills and transmedia navigation, and they have better non-linear thinking patterns. I don't even know what half of those things mean. And again, this list goes on and on and on. Who knows what other cool stuff video games can do? But if we really want to take advantage of them, we've got to move past all these silly distractions. And so the next time you hear someone promoting these silly scapegoating distractions, use these logical arguments and remind them that they're fucking retarded. This is Batman signing out.
Mission complete. Solid performance. Big win. Job done. For the cause.